Iran opened the Strait of Hormuz yesterday morning. Oil prices crashed. Stock markets surged to record highs. Then, Trump said the U.S. blockade stays. Now Iran's threatening to close it again. Here's what just happened. On April 17th, Iran's foreign minister announced the Strait of Hormuz is completely open for commercial shipping. This was huge. The strait had been effectively closed since February 28th, when the war started. That's 48 days of disruption to global oil trade. Iran said ships can pass through as long as the Lebanon ceasefire holds. They set up coordinated shipping lanes. They promised safe passage. Markets reacted immediately. Oil prices dropped 12% in a single day. Brent crude fell to $84 per barrel. The S&P 500 hit a record high. The Nasdaq hit a record high. Both closed at all-time highs for the third day in a row. Shipping companies started planning routes through Hormuz again. Europe started calculating when cheaper fuel would arrive. Energy stocks dropped. Consumer goods stocks surged. For a few hours, it looked like the worst was over. Then Trump made an announcement. Trump posted on Truth Social, "Great news that Iran has agreed to reopen the strait, but the naval blockade will remain in full force. The U.S. blockade of Iranian ports would continue until a peace deal is 100% complete." Let me explain what this means. Iran opened Hormuz for other countries' ships. Oil from Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, the UAE, all that could flow again. Global trade could resume. But the U.S. blockade prevents ships from entering or leaving Iranian ports specifically. So Iran still can't export its own oil. Iran still can't import goods by sea. Trump's message was clear. You can reopen the strait, but you're still under economic siege. The White House said this was necessary leverage for negotiations. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said the blockade ends as soon as the agreement gets signed. But there's a problem. There is no agreement. Talks collapsed on April 12th. No second round is scheduled. The ceasefire expires April 22nd. That's 4 days from now. And Iran just responded. Iran's foreign ministry spokesman said if the U.S. blockade continues, Iran will take the necessary measures. Iran's military was more direct. They threatened to block shipping from the Persian Gulf, the Sea of Oman, and the Red Sea if the U.S. creates insecurity for Iranian commercial ships. Read that again. Iran opened Hormuz. Trump kept the blockade. Now, Iran's threatening to close 3 waterways instead of 1. This is escalation, not de-escalation. Iranian state media walked back some of the foreign minister's statements. They said only IRGC-authorized ships can pass through designated lanes. They said the reopening was conditional and limited. Shipping companies got confused. Maersk, the world's second-largest shipping company, said they're noting the announcement but waiting for security assessments before sending ships through. Hapag-Lloyd said there are still some open questions that need resolving within 24 hours. Translation: nobody knows if it's actually safe to sail through Hormuz right now. The reopening became chaos within hours. Here's the bigger picture. 20% of the world's oil passes through the Strait of Hormuz. That's 21 million barrels per day. When it's closed, oil prices spike. When it opens, prices drop. Yesterday's 12% oil price drop was the second largest single-day drop since the war began. That sounds good. Cheaper gas, cheaper goods, lower inflation. But it only works if Hormuz stays open. If Iran closes it again, and they're now threatening 3 waterways instead of 1, oil could spike even higher than before. Some analysts warned oil could hit $200 per barrel if the war resumes after April 22nd. Markets are pricing this in. Stocks surged yesterday on optimism, but that optimism depends on a ceasefire extension. There is no extension yet. Europe's economy is especially vulnerable. They depend heavily on Gulf oil. The European Central Bank and IMF have warned about stagflation if the Hormuz closure continues. France and the UK held a 40-country summit yesterday to discuss a multinational naval mission to secure Hormuz after the war. They're planning for a scenario where neither the US nor Iran controls it. Everyone does. But that only works if the war actually ends. Right now, we're 4 days from finding out. Let's be clear about what happened. Iran made a concession. Opening Hormuz was a gesture toward peace. It benefits global trade. It lowers oil prices. It reduces pressure on the U.S. economy. Trump responded by maintaining maximum pressure. The blockade stays. The sanctions stay. Iran's economy stays strangled. You can argue that's smart negotiating leverage. Force Iran to give up everything before you give up anything. But it creates a contradiction. Trump said the war is very close to over. He said we'll have victory very shortly. He told a crowd in Las Vegas to watch what happens over the next week or so, and they'll be very impressed. Gas prices in Las Vegas, where he was speaking, are $5 per gallon. If Iran closes Hormuz again because the blockade continues, gas goes higher. If the ceasefire expires on April 22nd and war resumes, gas goes higher. The path to lower prices is peace. But the U.S. strategy is maximum pressure until Iran capitulates completely. Iran's opening Hormuz was an opportunity to build momentum toward peace. Instead, it became another flashpoint. Iranian hardliners can now say, "We tried, we opened the strait, the U.S. kept the blockade anyway, why should we negotiate?" And they'd have a point. Pakistan's army chief just flew to Tehran yesterday carrying a new message from Washington. He's trying to arrange a second round of talks before April 22nd. Pakistan's prime minister is traveling to Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and Turkey this week, trying to rally support for the negotiations. The White House says talks are productive and ongoing, but nothing is official. Both sides reportedly agreed in principle to extend the ceasefire, but in principle means nothing until it's signed. We're 4 days out, and there's no formal extension. Here's what to watch. April 22nd, the ceasefire expires. Either it gets extended or war resumes. If extended, negotiations continue. Hormuz might stay open. Markets stay optimistic. If it expires, Iran likely closes Hormuz again, and maybe the Red Sea too, based on their threats. Oil spikes. Markets crash. War resumes. The U.S. position is, we have leverage. We're using it. Iran will cave. The Iranian position is, we've been bombed for 48 days. We survived. We're not surrendering. Neither side has blinked yet. The real question isn't whether Hormuz is open today. It's whether it'll stay open tomorrow. Iran opened it as a peace gesture. Trump kept the blockade as leverage. Now Iran's threatening escalation. This is how ceasefires collapse. One side makes a concession. The other side pockets it and demands more. The first side feels betrayed and retaliates. The spiral continues. We've seen this before in this war. Israel and Lebanon agreed to a 10-day ceasefire on April 16th at 5 p.m. 2 hours later, Israel was shelling southern Lebanon. Ceasefires only work if both sides actually want peace. Right now, it looks like both sides want victory. And that means April 22nd could be the day everything falls apart. That's what happened when Iran reopened Hormuz. Markets celebrated. Trump kept the pressure on. Iran threatened escalation. 4 days until we find out if this ceasefire holds.